You think you know your family's story? Think again. Behind every smile, behind every carefully chosen word, there can be secrets so deep that even death cannot keep them buried. Imagine grieving the man you loved most in this world, your father, only to discover he had lived a double life, a secret family, hidden heirs, a truth powerful enough to shatter two families at once. For years, I believed my father was the man I admired above all others. Strong, reliable, the kind of man who guided his family with honor. At least that's what we thought. But death has a way of peeling back illusions, dragging the darkest truths into the light. And what we uncovered after his funeral didn't just wound us, it destroyed everything we believed about him. One letter, one will, one moment, and the world we knew collapsed. Strangers appeared, claiming his blood, his name, and his fortune. Suddenly, our grief was poisoned by betrayal, our mourning overshadowed by rage. And the man we buried with love and tears became someone else entirely, a stranger who had deceived us all. This is not just a story about inheritance. It's about betrayal, broken trust, and the scars left behind when lies finally come to light. Prepare yourself, because once the truth begins to unravel, nothing will ever feel safe again. Before we dive deeper, subscribe, like this video, and comment your city and state. I'd love to know where you're watching from. For as long as I can remember, my father was the cornerstone of our world. He was the man others admired, the one neighbors pointed to as an example of strength and dignity. At family gatherings, he commanded the room with his calm voice and warm smile. To me, he was more than a father, he was a hero. He taught me lessons about integrity, responsibility, and the importance of building a legacy worth remembering. But the truth is, appearances are fragile things. They shine on the surface, hiding cracks beneath the paint. And our lives were full of cracks, though we refused to see them. The first cracks appeared in small ways, trips that were longer than he explained, business meetings that seemed endless, phone calls at odd hours, whispers cut short when one of us entered the room. I remember seeing receipts from places that didn't fit his story, hotels in cities where he never claimed to travel. When I asked, he brushed it off with a smile. Business, don't worry yourself. And I didn't. I trusted him. We all did. Because to question him would be to unravel the foundation of the life we built together. That's how illusions work. You cling to them because the truth is too terrifying to face. I wanted to believe he was the man everyone else believed him to be, so I silenced my doubts. We all did. But deep down, I think we knew something was wrong. There were moments, brief flashes, when his mask slipped, when he looked distant at the dinner table, his eyes somewhere far away, when he forgot details he should have remembered, like he was living two lives at once. We ignored it. We told ourselves it was stress, the weight of work, the pressure of responsibility. It was easier to keep believing the story we'd always told ourselves. Our father was perfect. Our family was whole. But the facade was never as solid as we wanted it to be. It was a house of cards, trembling with every lie, waiting for the smallest gust of truth to bring it crashing down. And when that truth finally came, it didn't just knock at the door. It tore the entire house apart. The day of my father's funeral felt like the closing of a chapter. The church was overflowing with people who came to honor him. Colleagues, neighbors, distant relatives. They spoke about his kindness, his wisdom, his generosity. Their words painted a picture of a man so perfect that even death couldn't tarnish his reputation. We sat in the front row, cloaked in grief. Tears blurred our vision. Our hands clutched together in silence. We thought the worst was behind us. After all, we had buried him with love, with respect, with all the dignity he deserved. But grief has a way of hiding the truth. For a while, sorrow blinded us to the storm that was about to come. A week later, we gathered in the lawyer's office. The air was heavy, thick with expectation. We thought it would be routine, the reading of his will, a formality to close his life's chapter. We expected words about inheritance, about dividing what he had built among his children. The lawyer's expression was uneasy. His hands trembled as he opened a sealed envelope. His voice, usually steady, faltered as he began to read. And then came the names. Names none of us had ever heard. Names that didn't belong to our family. At first, we thought it was an error, a misprint, a mistake that could be explained with a phone call. But before we could even question it, the office door creaked open. They walked in. Strangers, yet not strangers. Faces eerily familiar. The curve of a smile, the shape of their eyes, even the way they carried themselves. It was like looking at distorted reflections of ourselves. The lawyer continued, his words slicing through the silence. These individuals are also recognized as heirs. They are your father's children. The room spun. My mother's hand shook as she gripped mine. My siblings sat frozen, their faces pale with disbelief. We wanted to deny it, to shout that it was impossible. But deep down, something inside us whispered the truth we didn't want to hear. The cracks in his facade had always been there. We just refused to see them. Every late-night call, every unexplained trip, every lie he told with a smile, they had all been for them. My father had lived a double life. And now, the shadows he had kept hidden were stepping into the light, demanding recognition, demanding their share of everything we thought was ours. The man we buried with love had betrayed us in the cruelest way imaginable. And that betrayal was only beginning to unfold. The revelation of my father's secret family was a wound, but what came next turned that wound into an open battlefield. The moment the truth stepped into the room, everything changed. No longer were we just grieving children, trying to hold on to the image of a man we loved. We were adversaries in a war we never asked for. The battlefield wasn't built of bricks or stone. It was a courtroom, cold and merciless. The walls echoed with legal arguments, the shuffle of papers, the metallic clink of pens signing documents that carried the weight of betrayal. The will, written in his own hand, was unflinching. He hadn't just acknowledged his hidden family. He had provided for them. The businesses he built, the land he purchased, the savings he guarded, all of it was to be divided. Not among the children who grew up in his home, but between us and the strangers who had stepped from the shadows. We fought back, of course, our voices, once united in grief, now sharpened into weapons. We demanded fairness, legitimacy, recognition of our suffering. But every argument we made was met with another document, another signature, another undeniable piece of evidence. The hidden heirs were not ashamed. They stood with quiet confidence, as if the truth had always been theirs to hold. They didn't flinch when we shouted, didn't look away when we cried. In their eyes, they weren't intruders. They were equals. They were family. Each day in that courtroom felt like tearing open an old wound, pouring salt into it, and stitching it closed with wire. Lawyers turned our grief into strategy, our pain into ammunition. We were no longer a family. We were opponents in a brutal game of inheritance. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about pride, about betrayal, about reclaiming the dignity that had been ripped from us when those strangers walked through the lawyer's door. But no matter how fiercely we fought, the truth was ironclad. The documents bore his handwriting, the dates aligned, the lies unraveled with precision, leaving us naked in our rage. At night, I lay awake replaying every memory, asking myself how he could have done this. How could the man who tucked me into bed at night also have been tucking other children into bed somewhere else? The weight of betrayal pressed down on us like a stone. The courtroom became not a place of justice, but a mirror reflecting the lies of a man we once adored. And as each verdict was read, each ruling made, it became clearer. We weren't just losing the inheritance. We were losing the very story of who we thought we were. And the most painful battles were still ahead. The courtroom battles eventually ended, but the scars they left behind ran far deeper than any legal document could record. The consequences of my father's secret weren't measured in dollars or divided estates. They were carved into our hearts, etched into the very fabric of our family. At home, silence became our constant companion. Dinners once filled with laughter now echoed with unspoken anger. Every chair felt heavy, every glance sharp. My siblings and I, who once leaned on each other for strength, now looked at one another with suspicion. Questions lingered in the air. Did anyone know? Did someone suspect? Were we blind, or were we simply too afraid to face the truth? Our mother bore the worst of it. Her grief transformed into something darker, something hollow. The man she had devoted her life to had betrayed her in the most public, humiliating way. Whispers followed her everywhere. Neighbors who once admired her now looked with pity or curiosity. Some even dared to say, "She must have known." The shame was suffocating. The hidden heirs lived their truth openly now, unashamed, unflinching. They carried his name with pride, while we carried it like a chain. Every time I heard it spoken, it stung. A reminder that our father's love had been divided, his promises split, his loyalty nothing more than a facade. And what about me? I questioned everything. Were his smiles real? The way he called me my child, was it genuine? Or was it simply a performance? Was his love a mask he wore, slipping it on and off as he moved between two families? The betrayal twisted my memories. Birthdays, holidays, even the quiet evenings when he sat reading by the fire. None of them felt safe anymore. They were poisoned, tainted by the knowledge that while he was with us, he was thinking of them. The social consequences spread like wildfire. Our family name, once a badge of honor, became a whispered scandal. Invitations stopped arriving. Doors that once opened easily now closed. People avoided eye contact, but their curiosity was louder than words. The story of the man with two families became a tale retold in hushed tones, a cautionary whisper carried through the town. The betrayal wasn't just his. It became ours to bear. We lived with the weight of his decisions, carrying a burden we never chose. And as the world judged us, as society branded us with his sins, I realized something chilling. Betrayal doesn't end with the betrayer. It infects everyone around them, leaving destruction in its wake. And yet, in all that silence and shame, one question echoed louder than all the rest. If he had lived long enough, would he have ever told us the truth? Or would he have carried his secret to the grave, leaving us to build our lives on lies forever? That question haunted me, and it still does. When the dust finally settled and the lawyers stopped calling, we were left alone with the ruins. The inheritance had been divided, the rulings finalized, and the strangers who once shocked us now lived openly as part of his legacy. But in truth, there were no victors, only survivors. Our home felt different. It wasn't just the absence of his voice or the emptiness of his chair at the table. It was the silence that lingered, the questions that never found answers. My siblings and I tried to carry on, but every attempt felt heavy, like dragging the weight of a ghost behind us. At first, I thought time would heal us. People always say it does. But time doesn't erase betrayal. It magnifies it. With each passing day, I saw more clearly how deeply his lies had shaped us. The fractures weren't just between us and the hidden heirs. They were inside of us, etched into our trust, our relationships, even our sense of identity. I found myself questioning everything. If the man I trusted most could live such a lie, what did that mean for the rest of us? Could anyone be trusted? Could love ever be real, or was it always just another mask? Yet life demands we move forward, even when we don't want to. Slowly, painfully, we began rebuilding. My mother found strength in small routines, tending the garden, reading quietly, surrounding herself with the pieces of life she could control. My siblings and I stopped talking about the will, about the courtroom, about them. We tried to rebuild new traditions, fragile ones, rooted not in the man we lost, but in the truth we now carried. But the truth has a way of shaping you, whether you want it to or not. And the truth we inherited was betrayal. That became the lens through which we saw the world. Still, in the silence of reflection, I began to see something else. Resilience. The ability to survive, even when the foundation crumbles beneath you. The strength to face the truth, even when it destroys everything you thought was real. Maybe that was the real inheritance, not the land, not the businesses, not the money, but the scars, Scars that reminded us we endured, scars that taught us lies can break us, but they cannot erase us. In the end, rebuilding didn't mean forgetting. It meant carrying the scars with us, letting them shape us into something harder, sharper, and maybe wiser. And as I looked back on the wreckage of what my father left behind, I realized one thing with painful clarity. Sometimes the greatest gift a person can leave you isn't what they built, but the lessons carved from what they destroyed. Secrets are like shadows. They follow you silently, hidden from view, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. My father believed he could control his secret, bury it deep, and carry it to his grave. But secrets are patient. They wait. And when they rise, they destroy everything built on their lies. His hidden family wasn't just a revelation. It was a reckoning. It shattered the illusion of the man we thought we knew. It divided us, scarred us, and left two families standing in the wreckage of his choices. That was his true legacy. Not the wealth, not the properties, not even the respect he once commanded. His true legacy was betrayal. And yet, buried in that betrayal was a lesson, cruel but unforgettable. The truth always finds a way out. No matter how carefully you hide it, no matter how deep you bury it, one day it will surface, and when it does, it will speak louder than you ever could. So I carry that truth with me now, not as a burden, but as a warning. A reminder that love without honesty is just performance, and trust built on lies is destined to collapse. If this story shook you, subscribe, like this video, and comment with your city and state. I'd love to know where you're watching from and how far this story has traveled today. Because stories like this remind us of a painful truth. Wealth fades, names vanish, but betrayal is remembered forever.